T-Mobile.com/5G for you for details.
This is the Dallas Cowboys Pepsi Postgame Show. Pepsi, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, here's Zach Wolchuk and Bryan Broaddus.
At the 10-yard line of Carolina, play fake, bootleg to the right, nobody's open. He goes to the corner in the back corner of the end zone, and Tolbert got open and caught it. Touchdown to Jalen Tolbert.
Well, that was one of a couple touchdowns there in the second half. It was 10-7 at halftime. Cowboys go on to win it 30-14 is the first play of the second half. Carolina with the football. Osa Odighizuwa gets a big sack, forced fumble recovered by Chauncey Golston. Cowboys cash that in with the touchdown strike to Jalen Tolbert. Jalen Brooks would then get his first career receiving touchdown on an outstanding scramble drill there from Cooper Rush. Put the Cowboys up 24-7. Couple Brandon Aubrey field goals would get the advantage up to 30. And you sandwich in a Bryce Young 6-yard rushing strike there as well for Carolina. But 30-14, Cowboys get the win. They improve to 5-2 on the road. They're 6-8 on the season. Carolina falling to 3-11, 2-6 at home. Cowboys now 4-0. Also short weeks this year under Mike McCarthy. It is Zach Wolchuk and the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus. But much of what we talked about at halftime, the running game was sensational today. CeeDee Lamb only one catch in the second half, but didn't have to do much more than that.
No, he really didn't. He did a really nice job in the first half. Carolina just gives you a lot of cushion as a cornerback play. And, you know, when you give up 7 yards of cushion per snap, you're going to try to take advantage of that. I think Dallas did a pretty nice job of that with Lamb and his ability to get open. With the running game, it was going to be, nobody faces more rushing attempts than the Carolina Panthers. And you saw a good reason why tonight, this afternoon, that they just do not play the run very well. But give Rico Dowdle a lot of credit. He got his 25 carries. He got 149 yards. That's outstanding. He's been, since they decided, and what's the shame about it? Why in week 11 do you all of a sudden decide to make him the featured back in your offense? But here you are. He's been one of the best when it comes to that. The successful runs he has, 4+ yards per carry, just been outstanding. There's no negative plays with him at all.
No, he finished with 149, 6 yards a carry, to your point, and each week now he's setting new career highs for rushing. 112 against the Giants, 131 then on Monday night against Cincinnati, and then a new career high, third straight game, over 100 yards rushing. That's the first time the Cowboys have had a rusher run for over 100 yards 3 straight weeks. You got to go back to 2019, pre-COVID. Ezekiel Elliott doing it from October 13th to November 4th, starting with the Giants, ending with the Jets there. So, yeah, Rico, with the amount of opportunities, and got to give credit to this offensive line as well, certainly with backup parts. But these guys are blocking, opening up holes. Edoga leaves the game, gets hurt today. Guyton slides in at left tackle. Then you lost T.J. Bass.
And Edoga comes back into the game. So, yeah, they're going to – it sounded like to me there was, with Bass, was it a thumb injury? Is that what they were talking about? I don't know. He was sitting on the field. Maybe we need to check that out. I didn't exactly hear what his specific injury was. I thought it was a thumb injury, so maybe that's something that they felt like that he just couldn't go back in. Is that what
they ruled him out with a thigh
injury? Okay. I thought I heard thumb,
something, and I was
thumb
or thigh.
Yeah, there you go, thigh injury. Yeah, so. Yeah, we'll see. This line has done a much better job. It starts really with Steele at right tackle. I think he's been, played much better. Zach Martin was very limited what he could do. He was really banged up, and he just wasn't healthy enough to play at a high level that we're used to with Zach Martin playing. And so, they've gone a little bit of the having to fill his role with a couple of different guys, and it's worked out. I think it's helped Steele a little bit. I think it helped Beebe when he was in there. Smith is always going to play at a high level, and so we'll see what happens. Some more challenges coming up with Tampa, coming in next Sunday night.
877-881-1053 is the number to call. The number to text, 877-881-1053, for any questions, comments, concerns you have after a Cowboys 30-14 road win over the Carolina Panthers. Brought to you by Pepsi, made for Cowboys watching. And defensively, they were brilliant. I mean, this was a quarterback in Bryce Young who had really turned the corner coming into this football game. You saw the fumbles were certainly an issue for him. Had a couple of interceptions. Shout out to Izzy McQuamu. Big day for the South Carolina Gamecocks today.
Yeah.
For the Cowboys with Rico Dowdle, the game he had, Brooks' first touchdown. Then how about Izzy with that interception?
Yeah, guys that all, like a lot of Carolina guys,
Yeah.
Rico Dowdle you mentioned. So, yeah, a lot of things going on there for guys playing around their home states. But, yeah, this, to me, the biggest problem in this game, and Mike McCarthy, I'm guarantee will stand up there today and talk about the penalties. And then also, though, the one unfortunate red zone turnover that they had. I mean, if you half the penalties and no red zone turnover, Dallas played a pretty damn perfect game right there. I know they had the busted coverage that allowed a Carolina touchdown, but other than that, it was the penalties and that one turnover. And that's what 9 turnovers they've had in the red zone, which leads the league. Now, that's terrible. And so, hey, they were able to overcome it because they're playing a very bad Carolina Panther team today.
Yeah, Cooper Rush now 8 fumbles since he came in for
Weird.
Dak. Now, he had that one, in the final couple minutes of the game, too. Now he pounced back on it, or else
Right.
it could have been 9 fumbles. But
He had 2 fumbles today.
Yeah, I mean, that's something when it comes to ball security certainly has been an issue for Cooper
Yeah.
Rush. He finishes with 3 touchdown passes, 214 yards through the air, overall effective. But you're right, the red zone turnover, that's one that usually is going to come back to haunt you. But the 14 penalties for 99 yards, when this one was close in the first half, that was really the story of the game. It was they're getting in their own way with pre-snap penalties, the illegal formations, the 12 men in the huddle, and the amount of times they've been penalized coming out of timeouts. That's something that's very,
12 men
very
in the huddle
frustrating
bit.
to watch.
Yeah. It is unfortunate though that they've had the penalties they had, and usually, like I say, Bill Vinovich, we did the referee report in the pregame. This is a crew that was near the bottom when it came, or near the bottom of the table when it came to calls. But you get 2 teams that are going at it that are playing with probably a lot of backup guys, and maybe not the best rosters. That you're going to have some problems like that.
Again, you had 3 players tied with 5 tackles to lead the team. How about Maris Leofau today in place of DeMarvion Overshown?
Was going to need him to be really big in this football game because he had been primarily just a base personnel player, and the Cowboys do play a lot of base defense. But we talked about him in the pregame show as well. That what were your expectations of him? Here's a guy that's always around the ball when there's a turnover, and so. That's something he did at Notre Dame. You always saw him around the football. And once again, he gets the opportunity to play today. It's great to see him and Kendricks play. Both got that hair flying out of the back of their helmets, and they're both running the football the way that they do. But nice job by Maris Leofau stepping in and playing. And, here's the Panthers. As you look at the Panthers, really, didn't get much going, in the running game today. And I think
Not at all. Chuba
because
Hubbard, 32 yards.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys did a great job when this game was close. Carolina just could not run the ball, and we're really, really worried about that. Cowboys have played really some quality run defense the last several weeks against these RB1s for these football teams.
They have, and then Adam Thielen, who had a really good game last year when these 2 teams played, only 5 catches, 51 yards. He was the most targeted receiver for Bryce Young today, but we're able to keep Adam Thielen in check. I mean, they were all over Bryce Young today. When you look at 6 sacks, 2 for Micah Parsons, Odigizua Osa getting 1, Carl Lawson. I mean, everybody was chipping in.
It was going to be, we like to talk about the things that, when we break these things down, when you talk on our show 105.3 The Fan, the G-Bag Nation, we're talking about the fact that this Carolina offensive line was going to have problems with movement. And we started to see that. We saw the guys, Mike Zimmer did a good job of kind of mixing up some fronts, giving it some different looks, but the twist stunts. Carolina's got a little bit of a heavy-footed offensive line. And so when you start to make them have to move like that to adjust, and Mike was able to get some clean rushers home. When Jordan Lewis able to get that sack off a clean rush, nobody generates more clean rushes than what Mike Zimmer does, and he does quite a few of them there for Micah Parsons, which is very, very surprising. But overall, just a really nice day with Mike Zimmer playing the run and then also limiting what Carolina was doing throwing the football.
Cowboys did a good job on third down as well. 6 of 12 today. I mean, if you're batting 50% there on third down, you're doing a good job. And on that touchdown drive, I believe it was their opening drive, CeeDee Lamb had 3 conversions on third down, including the touchdown reception as well. So CeeDee was big time in the first half of being able to extend drives, which has been an issue at times for this offense with Cooper Rush at the helm. They did a much better job taking advantage of really not a super talented defense there in Carolina, being able to keep this thing going and moving the football.
Well, you take away the 83-yard pass, they would have like 136 yards receiving in this game. Wow. With all the receivers, so you'd have to think that's and the fact that they were able to hold Chuba Hubbard to 32 yards, as you mentioned. I mean, this could have been a really, really good day, and you got to do that if somebody. But Carolina, I'm going to say this: Carolina coming in offensively, they're going to kind of look at this and like going, damn, we let Dallas do this to us today.
Yeah, what happened?
What happened? So, but hey, tip of the cap to Mike Zimmer, the defensive staff, and the way they're going, and then also Rico Dowdle, the banged-up Cowboy offensive line, and then CeeDee Lamb in the first half of this game.
Phone lines are open, 877-881-1053, as we go ahead and reflect on this 30-14 Cowboys win in Carolina over the Panthers. Get your calls and texts in. We'll also hear from Brad Sham, the voice of your Dallas Cowboys. We'll get Mike McCarthy, Cooper Rush, more player audio. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Every moment, every... Proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Brought to you by
AT&T, the official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. Tito's Handmade Vodka is America's original craft vodka. WinStar World Casino and Resort, proud to be the casino of the Dallas Cowboys. Please game responsibly. Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. And by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys.
Now here is Young from the 30. He's sacked again. Wow! That was Parsons, he exploded around the offensive left, and Bryce Young never had a chance.
He sure did. Micah Parsons with 2 sacks today, and he was fantastic. Finished with 4 tackles overall, and the entire defense just kept Bryce Young under duress all afternoon long as the Cowboys get a 30-14 win in Carolina over the Panthers. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus as we are hanging out. The official postgame show of your Dallas Cowboys will be partying with you until 6 p.m. We'll also have a postgame show here on the flagship 105 through the fan you can listen to on the Odyssey app if you want to continue out of market. We'll have Jake and our three-time Hall of Famer Chris Arnold jumping in on that. Let's get to the phones, though. 877-881-1053 is the number to call, the number to text. Brought to you by Aristocrat. You just cheered for America's team on the field. Now see them on the reels. Cowboys-themed casino games developed by Aristocrat. Now at a casino near you. Aristocrat, a proud sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. And if you got a gambling problem, please contact 1-800-GAMBLER for 21 and over. Let's hear from B. Smitty, who's in West Virginia calling in. What's going on, B. Smitty?
Hey, how y'all doing? How you doing, Brian? Always good to talk to y'all.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say I like this last stretch of games that we've won this year. It's just disappointing that we had to bungle it up last week, but hopefully we can win out and get some positives from the season. One other thing, since you're a draft expertise, Brian, I just want to ask you, what do you think about drafting Mike Green out of Marshall?
Love the player. Yeah, love the player. And thank you very much for the call. I'm always worried about if guys are coming back or whatever. It's one of those things, so you want to comment. But, Mike Green, when you watch him play at Marshall, he was a transfer from Virginia. And he has got the length. He's got the ability. He's got the ability to bend. He's very flexible. He knows how to rush off the edge. He can capture the edge. You can move him around in some different spots. It's amazing. He never really puts his hand on the ground. All of his stuff comes from a 2-point stance. But yeah, he is one of these guys that when you start to break down the edge rushers in this draft, Green is going to be one of the top ones. I guarantee he's going to test really, really well.
Ends up climbing the boards.
Physically, he looks the part. He plays the part. People are going to say Marshall and all that. Unfortunately for Marshall, their coach left to go to Southern Miss. Mm-hmm. Their team's not going to play in a bowl game because everybody jumped in the transfer portal. So it's that hurts the crew. But this kid's a really, really good player. All right, let's go to our buddy Gary in New Mexico. Gary, what's going on?
Hey, guys, how's it going?
Good. Excellent.
Hey, just one real quick thing before I get to my main point. I really appreciate how they honor Coach Landry at the end of the game when they do the little rise up and get back. I think that's really cool. I don't know whose idea that was, but as an old fan, I really appreciate that. And that brings me to my point or question, and it's really for Broaddus, because I think I agree with some things I've heard you say, Brian. I would be okay with McCarthy coming back if there's some certain changes, because there are some things as a head coach, kind of an overseer coach, that he does well.
Sure.
We're seeing some players develop. We're seeing some improvement as the year progresses. The 4-0 on a short week was one of the stats they brought up. That's very impressive. Mm-hmm. And something that Greg Olson mentioned that I did not know was that Mike McCarthy in his career, his teams have averaged something like 26 points a game, which is like the second best in NFL history. And I totally did not know that. So there's some things that he does well, but they're going to have to reconcile with how they're playing now with how the season started, because they weren't good when everybody was healthy.
They were healthy and they were awful.
Yeah, and that question that you and I have both asked, why did it take so long to start featuring Rico Dowdle?
Yep, that's on Mike.
That is a crime.
Yep, it's on Mike.
Yeah, that's a crime. And if that's on him, shame on him.
Yeah.
Because you may have a healthy starting quarterback had you done things differently from the beginning. But that's water under the bridge. We'll see how it goes. Thanks for taking my call.
It's funny. I shouldn't blame it completely on Mike because it could be that Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones and Will McClay said we need to play Ezekiel Elliott.
A little soft spot for Zeke.
Yeah,
Let's
and
get him the ball.
maybe if Mike is no longer the coach here, somebody will ask him that question, or maybe he'll, one of those things where you get him off to the side, he'll tell you that, yeah, Jerry asked me to do this. So, but yeah, as a staff, now I will say this, the general manager does have rights to ask about players playing. It's up to the head coach to determine if now maybe he played Zeke in a way of like, listen, I'm going to feature him here, and he's going to look like ass, and you're going to see that, we shouldn't be playing this guy, and we should be playing the other guy. And so that's kind of where I would, not going to blame Mike, but I know my own personal experience, the head coach and the general manager talk about guys and who plays and not, hey, play this guy. It's, okay, you're going to play this guy this week. Okay, yeah, we're looking to do this and looking to do that. You know what's going on right now with the Giants. Look at with Drew Lock with the money situation. Sure. That's probably the front office right there saying, hey, we do not want to play him because of bonuses. So there's discussion every day about who's playing and who's not playing. But, man, I would have sure liked Mike McCarthy, the staff, the front office, to realize that they had a guy in Rico Dowdle early in this thing and would have maybe got him involved a little bit quicker than they did.
Yeah, definitely one of the big problems over the course of the season. I think we all realized going back to the preseason, Rico it looked like your best guy.
Yeah, there's clearly. But the thing about it was hard to say that he wasn't the best guy because they didn't play Ezekiel Elliott. How many times did we stand at practice and Ezekiel Elliott was doing individual drills and never everything else? So I just, to me, that was a big problem. There's a lot of things. Mike McCarthy will get your team to Sunday.
Yeah.
It's what happens on Sunday and in the playoffs that has been the biggest problems for him.
877-881-1053. That opens a line to call, a line to text on the official postgame show of your Dallas Cowboys. Let's welcome in the legendary voice of your Cowboys, the great Brad Sham, joining us from Carolina. Brad, how are you? And we were just going down 4-0 for Mike now on short weeks this season. What does that stat mean to you?
It means that he knows how to prepare them, and
yeah.
I haven't reached, honestly, a conclusion about the extent to which I agree or disagree with Brian about Sunday, but there's no question that getting your team to Sunday is something he knows how to do. His record after byes in his career is exceptional, and this shows that he knows how to prepare his team, keep their heads in the game. These players, Zach, when they have a short week, especially this late in the year, they don't feel good till Thursday. Yeah. And they have to convince their body on Thursday that it's not Wednesday and, go out and grind. So, I think that is definitely credit to the way he prepares.
Brad, can I ask you this question in a way of people say that they have not quit on Mike McCarthy. The players haven't quit. Is he playing with such young players that they have no choice but to keep playing for him because they're not established players?
That's a fair observation.
Because you got guys like Leofau, you've got
your young linemen.
All the young linemen. All these guys are not established NFL players. If this was a veteran team, a team of just, 6-7-year guys, 8-year guys, would this maybe be different, that we wouldn't see the effort? But when you're playing with guys that aren't normally starters, that they have to play hard for him.
I think that you could take that position. I think it would be one of inherent pessimism, and I don't think that I.
No, I don't look at. No. I'm just saying though that I just people talk about him playing. They play hard for him. I'm glad they do. I'm glad they play hard for him. But I'm also taking it as they like to tell us this is a really, really young team, and I'm happy a young team is playing hard. Yeah,
you've got guys like Kendricks and Hooker, and to an extent Donovan Wilson, and a small handful of guys who are more veteran. It's factually correct for you to say, these are young guys. Many of them have not firmly established their place in careerdom, and they are definitely fighting for jobs.
Yes, sir.
And I think that would be factually accurate. I think it would. I think it would sell the entire coaching staff a little short. I think
they're getting the guys ready. They're getting those young players ready. I think now you're starting to see the benefit of having to play some of these cats in week 3 and week 4. Because now in week 14, week 15, they look like much different, better players.
Well, and they are. I think that he I believe likes to play young guys because he knows that he's going to need them later on. So I think if some of the veterans who got hurt had not been hurt, I think you'd still see the younger guys, when they got a chance to play, making contributions. But one way or the other, they're definitely playing hard. They're not always playing well,
right?
And sometimes they're not playing smart, but they're playing hard.
Defense was fantastic, 6 sacks, 4 turnovers, but Osa Odighizuwa was brilliant today, Brad. As we're looking at free agents for this team, how important is Osa as a guy to try and get back here?
Well, I think they have undervalued the defensive tackle position for longer than McCarthy's been the coach. I think they've undervalued it for 10 years or more. So I would say, in fact, I was just thinking about this as we were coming down in the elevator. Odighizuwa is exactly the kind of guy that they need. And if they don't sign him, and I think they are pessimistic about feeling that he is affordable for them.
Yes, sir.
Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I think that's how they feel. And if they don't get him, then they're going to be looking for 2 like that.
Yeah. Right.
Because, he would be a guy, we got to figure out a way to keep him. I want to keep him. I got to keep Jordan Lewis. There's 1 or 2 others, and then there's some that you would let go. But to me, Zach, I think you really need to keep him. The guy's just had a phenomenal year.
Brad, is the problem maybe with what the front office is looking at is that previous years we haven't seen this from Osa Odighizuwa, and they don't want to pay 1 year?
But he's been a good player. He might not have been this player,
right?
But I don't think, just knowing him, and I don't pretend to, we're not boys, we're not hanging, but
no,
I know him a little bit.
Yeah,
and I don't think he's the kind of guy who is going to wait for his contract year to really start to show out. I just think.
But do you feel like it puts him in a bind? Do you feel like it puts the front office in a bind when, and I agree with you about paying the guy. I just know there's been seasons of week 13 where he's played like this and then gone away. That's where I wonder if that's what they're thinking. I'm not trying to say don't pay the guy.
I certainly would. I certainly would defer. You have spent a career working in front offices and knowing how front offices think and how they evaluate guys. Whether he might have played better than I think or some fans think in the last quarter of the year for a couple of the last several years.
Right.
But the important thing, and you asked the question exactly the right way, is what's in the minds of the people who are going to be deciding whether to pay him. And that is, if they think that, then that would be a part of their evaluation. But all I know is when you look at it, you can see what he can do, and I would like to keep that around.
If I could put your feet to the fire, you mentioned him and Lewis. You can only have one.
Oh, don't do that to me.
You got a long plane flight home. You can think about it and tell me later if you want.
I've got like an hour and a half. Lewis means so much to the secondary.
Yeah.
They are going to have changes. I don't know what Diggs' story is going to be. He's not going to be able to do anything physically until training camp or later, because he's going to have at least an 8-month rehab, is what I'm told, from this surgery. And as you know better than almost anyone, they were not really happy with the way
they weren't.
This last year.
No, sir.
So, but I would just say Odighizuwa is younger and plays a position that I still believe in.
Jimmy Johnson and Dave Wanstead used to say you build a defense front to back and inside out. And I still think that's true. And that's why I get so irritated when they ignore the defensive tackle position.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're gonna hold my feet to the fire, as you said, and you can guarantee me that I can have one, but only one.
Yes, sir.
I would take Osa and really not be happy with letting Jordan Lewis go.
I appreciate you not riding the fence, sir. That's why you're a true pro.
I do think with 3 games left, Brad, I mean, Micah, obviously, difference maker, but I think for me, Jordan Lewis is probably your defensive MVP this year.
Oh, I think that's fair, although let's see how many they win. I don't know if you guys heard me at the end of the game, but let me pose this for you and you can discuss it. Consider where they were, what they've had, what they lost, who they've sent out there. If they win another game and finish with 7 wins, there's a chance that 4 or 5 years from now, you could look back at and say, that was one of Mike McCarthy's best coaching jobs.
Yeah.
To get 7 wins out of that, that assortment. And, I know that I've seen other coaches like Landry. There are some people who think that one of his very best jobs was 1985 when they won a division and they just didn't have the same team that they had before. But he won a division. He figured out a way. And somehow, these with this motley crew of people that they've had out there, they've won 6 games. And, if they were to win 7 games, which I thought coming into the year, this was before the injuries, I thought this was a 7 or 8 win team because they had not addressed running back or defensive tackle.
There you go.
And I thought that was going to hurt them. And then you had a couple of, we've talked about Jalen Tolbert, although he had definitely some excellent moments today. But he's, I don't think he's gotten better at the rate that you needed him to. And frankly, I don't think, I don't know that Cooper Rush has. I don't think Rush, as well as he played in the second half today.
Yes, sir.
And it was exceptional. I don't think he's playing as well as he did 2 years ago when he had to play. And so I just think that it might wind up being one of McCarthy's better jobs if he gets 7 wins out of this, when I don't know how much better than that they were going in.
Last one.
I don't even remember what you asked me.
Last one. Let's. You brought up running back there, Brad. 3 straight 100-yard games, just continually for Rico Dowdle. Now he's topping his career best when it comes to rushing yards. But if you're able to retain Rico, does that change how you're looking at running back moving into next year compared to where you were this year?
Yeah, I think it has to. And I say that, and I'm an Ashton Jeanty fan. I've tried to watch as much of.
Can I ask you a question real quick, Brad?
Yeah.
You're a Heisman voter, aren't you?
I am, yes.
Did you vote for Jeanty as the Heisman winner?
Second.
Okay.
I think the easiest decision in the history of sports was saying that Travis Hunter was the best college football player in the country.
Okay, thank you for being honest there. Thank you.
Yeah, nobody does what he did this year. But I'm a big Jeanty fan, and I think with Zach, the holes they have.
Sure.
I mean, think of what they need. They need a wide receiver. They need 2 offensive linemen. They need a defensive tackle and 2 defensive ends and a linebacker or 2. And by the time they finish with their roster, they may need 2 safeties, and they definitely need a corner. I mean, I think if Dowdle's got a great chance to get 1,000 yards.
He does.
And if he just the way he's finished, he doesn't have to get 1,000 if he just keeps playing well for the last 3 weeks against better teams. These are all contending teams. Then I think it would, as much as I would love to have Ashton Jeanty on this team and call his name and describe his career for the next several years, I think it would almost. Now it depends on where they pick. If they still wind up with a top 10 pick, then I think it would almost be malpractice to take a running back. But if they win another game and they wind up in the, where would that put them, Brian, in the 15 range?
Yeah, right now they're at 13.
Yeah, you would be right there, 15, 16, 17, right in there.
Yeah, and I don't expect Genty to last that long, but if he somehow did, I am a big believer, Zach. This is where some people think I do ride the fence. I'm a best player guy, especially when you have a fairly high pick in the first round. When you have a lot of needs, you just don't get better by passing up the best football player. I wouldn't take a quarterback, and, I don't think I'd take a tight end, but almost anybody else, and depending on where they're picking and what's left, I would consider Genty, but I think to try to answer your question, the urgency goes away with what you've seen from Dowdle, but you must add another capable back who can take a little bit of a load off him.
Brad, thank you so much. Enjoy the flight home. We'll see you Sunday night.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, fellows. Have a great week.
You as well. There he goes, the great Brad Sham here on the official post-game show of your Dallas Cowboys. More of your calls and texts. We're here from Coach McCarthy and more audio from the locker room. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are not.
tangy pepper sauce. Try them at your local DFW Buffalo Wild Wings or order now for takeout and delivery with Buffalo Wild Wings Go.
Young in the gun, back on third down. Quick pass, broken up and intercepted by Kendrick on a deflection at the 50-yard line.
One of 4 Cowboys turnovers by the defense today, 6 sacks as well from 5 different players. Pretty amazing day defensively for Mike Zimmer's crews. The Cowboys get a 30-14 win on the road in Carolina, improving to 6-8 on the season and 5-2 on the road. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus. Back to your calls and texts in just a moment. 877-881-1053. Right now, let's pause 10 seconds to allow stations to identify themselves across the Dallas Cowboys radio network.
Your turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's team is 105.3 The Fan.
Hello, baby.
KRLD-FM and HD1, Dallas-Fort Worth.
An Odyssey sports station.
All right, back to the phones, brought to you by the National Medal of Honor Museum. Join the mission at mohmuseum.org and AT&T, the official 5G innovation partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Let's get to our guy in Round Rock, Mr. Jim. Jim, what's going on, man?
Well, Wolchuk, Broaddus, I'm of two minds on these games. But, boys, I tell you what, it's just good to get a win. And I want Brian to tell you, I really like what we're seeing from your buddy Mike Zimmer. He is one heck of a coach, and he's got these guys ready to play. And I was just looking back at the stats over the past 4 games. Man, they're just – I think having Parsons back is good, but, man, they're playing good ball and they're tackling. Just really like him. And, man, I still don't think we need McCarthy next year, but boy, George, I sure would like to hang on to that fella. He's doing a good job. Really proud of Rico. We did that little free Rico thing 4 weeks ago, and that's boy, he's played good. But very pleased with the team. It's hard to get a win in the NFL. It's hard to go on the road over there in the Eastern Time Zone and get a win. So I'm just very, very pleased and happy to see the effort. And y'all made the point several times about how these guys are still playing hard for Mike McCarthy. That's a level of professionalism that these young men are demonstrating. And I tell you, I like you Thursdays with number 50 on 105.3 The Fan. He's just been a real great additive to this season, to this team, and quite frankly, to the fan. I love it Brian. I love it when you talk to him about the food and the cars and stuff. It's so good. Love that kid. But appreciate you fellas. Thanks for holding it all together for us, and we'll talk to you later. All right.
Sounds good, Jim. Thank you so much. Eric Kendricks again tied for the team lead in tackles with 5. Also had that interception. I mean, he's been awesome.
Yeah, it makes it a shame that Monday night you just couldn't get that victory and maybe get this thing to 7-7 and kind of see what happens from there.
Yeah,
if you're in that camp, if the keep winning camp, and then there's the keep trying camp to win games, and then there's the you're messing up the draft pick camp. But if you're in the camp of trying to play this thing out and get as many wins as you can, man, that Monday night game now stings even more because this very well could have gotten you to where you probably needed to be, at least, in the last 3 to have a chance. It would have put you into the hunt.
Yeah, you'd be 7-7, and you got a game against Washington coming up.
And what's crazy is the Commanders won another game on a last play, with the 2-point conversion today. But hey, give them credit. Give them credit. They have
found a way to get it done.
They found a way to get it done.
And congratulations to Mike McCarthy as he moved into 13th place now when it comes to the all-time coaches wins record. He tied Jeff Fisher with 173 wins now on the all-time coaching wins list. Let's hear from Bob in Austin. Bob, you're on the official postgame show of the Dallas Cowboys.
Yes, sir. Thank you for taking my call. Hey, Broaddus, I got a question for you on is there any way they can keep Dowdle? I hope they can keep Dowdle. That guy runs hard.
Yeah.
He's just tough. I don't see how they can give him up somehow. I need to sign that guy.
Yeah.
But is there any way they can slide another top running back? Like y'all been talking about this Ashanti. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Ashton Genty.
Genty.
I'm sorry, Genty.
Yeah.
Well, if they were to get somebody like that, would they be able to keep both of those guys on the team?
Well, Detroit Lions kind of figured out how to do something like that, but I just don't see them doing that. Now we'll see. There's not a lot of mileage on Rico Dowdle. We've seen a lot of mileage on him. He's played some interesting games here. He had 100 yards with back-to-back within 5 days. Usually running backs are pretty beat up after those. But man, I mean, yeah, he's a quality back, and I think the question you have to ask yourself is, would you rather pay Rico Dowdle or draft a guy? And I think that's the kind of where they're at right now. I guarantee you if Ashton Jeanty is on the board when they pick, say at 14 or 15, he is going to be the best player on their board.
Yeah,
he is going to.
There's no question.
And the one thing this team has done really, really well in the first round, when it's the best player on their board, whether it's Zach Martin or CeeDee Lamb or Micah Parsons, they've taken that player. And I think in the first round, you just don't want to you try and limit the number of mistakes you can make. And this kid has, I think, the least amount of holes in him for a first round pick that you're going to find in this draft.
Thank you, Bob, and I agree with you on that, especially a draft that I do think a lot of these players we're going to be talking about, there's something wrong, like there's a wart, something here or there that you're just not blown away with. He's a safe pick. He really is. But I'm all about trying to get Rico back. And he's going to be
super productive, too, when you get him.
Absolutely.
You're probably going to have him. Maybe you don't do the second contract. But maybe this guy, there's people that will have discussions with you about the number of touches.
Yeah.
And so everybody who does not want a running back in the first round will come up with a million reasons why not to. And then everybody that's okay with taking the best available player will argue with you like, this guy's one of the best players in the country. It took a two-way player to beat him out of a Heisman Trophy this year.
I mean, look, if you want to be sold, go and watch Oregon play Boise State at Oregon in Eugene this year. Ashton Jeanty, the number one team in the country, the Oregon Ducks, the favorite to win the national championship.
I don't know if anybody played Oregon closer. I mean, Ohio State did, but overall,
that was Ashton Jeanty. Yeah. That was all him, man. He's got that team to a conference championship, and now they're in the college football playoff. So he's as advertised, but I am very interested in what Rico could get on the open market, and he deserves. He's looking for a payday. So I wonder, do the Cowboys get priced out of that? Does he end up getting $3 to $4 million a year? I mean, he's making just over $1 million this year when you look at his deal. But that will certainly be something when you look at all these Cowboys free agents. What does the market end up dictating their worth?
Well, let's see. Let's go back and look what happened last year when they were looking at free agent running backs. Everybody went out and they got him one. Every one of those guys, it appears, has played with that contract and been a positive player, been a net positive player for their teams. Saquon Barkley, it was $13 million, right? I mean, they
top three leading rushers were all free agents.
All free agents, all of them. And maybe teams are looking at like, listen, maybe we can bring these guys back. And Rico Dowdle has proven he has not been one of those guys that is a high mileage guy. He doesn't have a bunch of NFL carries. Now he's been injured. And that's kind of slowed him down.
I'm sure something that they'll have to talk about as well.
But there's several good running backs in this draft, too, by the way.
All right, let's go to Boom in the 806. What up, Boom?
Hey, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, all right. I called in a couple of weeks ago, and Zach, I was asking y'all about should they, after we beat the Redskins, should they bring McCarthy back? And I'm starting to hear this buzz, even from the players, bring McCarthy back. I told you when I did call in, I'm pro bring him back. I think he deserves another shot.
Okay.
And it's only based off of, like you had said it, Broaddus, the groceries that he was given were garbage. I mean, if Jerry was going to run this team into the ground, it didn't take McCarthy to do it. And y'all can correct me where I'm wrong yet, but I don't know how many years Gary gave him, but I know he went 8-8 for several years. And for us to have 3 12-win seasons and we have this one screwed up season, I kind of only feel like it's fair. And I would like to take y'all thought on who would be our next coach if y'all in a rush to get him out of town, because we got to figure that out. Let's not push him out of town and then don't have nobody to say, okay, who can step and fill this void that we have now. And I'll take y'all answers. Thank y'all. Have a good day.
Thank you. Good call. You know what? To me, I think they would probably look at Mike Vrabel is who I think they would look at. I think they would look at somebody with some discipline, some accountability, some toughness, to them. It would be a matter of who, like I say, before I hire Mike Vrabel, I want to know who your staff's going to be. I want to know who your offensive coordinator is going to be. I want to know who your offensive line coach is. I want to know who your defensive coordinator is going to be. I'm going to interview these head coaches as much, and I'm going to find out every single thing about him. I'm totally okay with Mike McCarthy coming back if that's what people want to do. I mean, I am totally okay. I just don't think that Mike McCarthy needs to be the play caller. That's just me. I just do not think that at all. And so, to me, okay, if you're Jerry Jones and everybody's talking good about this Mike McCarthy, give him an extension tomorrow. Give him an extension tomorrow.
So now there's no conversation about it.
Come out on Tuesday when you have your radio hit on 105.3 The Fan and say, hey, listen, we're in negotiations right now with Mike McCarthy on an extension. We're talking to Don Yee, his agent, and we're going to try and get this thing done. If you're serious about bringing him back, announce an extension here in the next few days. But the longer that they don't do anything, there's what they're thinking about this. But if everybody, Stephen Jones talks positively about him, players talk positively about him, Jerry Jones talks positively about him, give him an extension then. Announce an extension that we're in the process right now of working on one. And then now go and see. But they're waiting. They're going to wait these next 3 games.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're not going to give this guy an extension until they see how this season ends.
Also keeps the storyline of the conversation going.
But if you want, hey, if ever everybody believes, including the front office, believes in this guy, go ahead and get him an extension.
Sure. Why wait?
Call up Don Yee. I'll give you his number. Call him up, and you can call him up and say, hey, let's talk about an extension for this guy.
All right, that opens up some lines, 877-881-1053, the number to call, the number to text here on the official postgame show of your Dallas Cowboys. Let's hear from Mike McCarthy, more from you as well. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Hey, Cowboy fans, I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app.
This time they're going to pick it up, and Rush is going deep down the right side. Lamb over the shoulder at the 25. Makes a little move and gets inside the 20.
30-14, Cowboys get the win over the Panthers in Carolina. Outstanding defensive performance. Rico Dowdle also brilliant as well. A couple of touchdowns for the Jalen's. Jalen Tolbert and Jalen Brooks. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout, Bryan Broaddus. 877-881-1053 is the number to call, the number to text. That's 877-881-1053. So we hang out with you until 6 o'clock tonight on the official postgame show of the Cowboys locally on the flagship 105.3 The Fan. We'll have a post show with Chris Arnold, and we'll have Jake as well jumping in there to continue the Cowboys postgame conversation. But right now, let's hear from your victorious head coach, Mike McCarthy, after the win.
David Moore, Plus Morning News. Coming off what you said was one of the heaviest locker rooms you had in that Cincinnati game, short week, lost another couple of starters before you got here, just how you felt this team responded across the board today.
I really felt they just stayed the course. It was a quick week. Obviously coming off the Monday night game, had a good week of prep. Trayvon's news was a bit of a surprise. So, we had some guys go down today too. But they're doing a great job as a football team. They just keep playing.
Clarence Hill also there. Just picking back on you talk about the resiliency of this team. Certainly going back to Monday night, but even today, you have a great first half. You fumble the ball, give them momentum going into the second half, and then you come back right out there and get the ball right back and just kind of score.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we've always been a resilient bunch, and today, that's a great example of it because frankly, the way the first half went. We felt like we were really in charge. I think we were +6 big play, category at that time, and that was really the only two plays they made in the first half. The fumble recovery was self-inflicted, and they hit the big play on the broken coverage. But yeah, they were good at halftime, and we got to play better moving forward. Obviously we got Tampa Bay coming in next. Too many penalties. We've got to take care of the football, but the takeaways outstanding. I thought the defense really set the tone for us in the first half. And Terp is magnificent, and with special teams, the field position battle. I didn't see the field position battle, but I assume we were ahead there. But +3 turnover ratio. Those are the basics that we want to play to. I think we had 20 more total plays than they did. I don't know what the time of possession came out, but that's the way we want to play. We want to play balance on offense, get our trips to the plate in the run game, and be smart in the passing game.
Mike Todd Archer of ESPN. What'd you make of the way Cooper rebounded after the fumble and how he came back? Yeah,
Cooper's. I thought his 2 touchdown throws were huge, big time throws. The loop pass was something that they rolled the coverage that to the close side. We called it a nub side, and obviously had a good coverage for that particular play, and he just extended the play, had great patience, and hit JT in the corner of the end zone. I thought that was a huge play. No different than the second one to Jalen Brooks. So love his poise. He commands the huddle, keeps us in really good plays. You can see that throughout the day, particularly how we ran the ball. And just because this defense is very challenging, they do a phenomenal job testing you, especially on a short week. So a lot of credit to our players for managing that.
And I think Osa, that first 2 drives, I guess, that they had in the third quarter. What has he meant to your defense? What did he mean to you guys today?
I think Osa's up on that wall for you're looking for examples of what a pro is. What a Dallas Cowboy is. Tremendous work ethic. Same guy every day. Just has one gear. He always plays wide open. So Osa gives it up for us every single day.
Josh Yamashita with The Athletic. CeeDee Lamb, it's another 1,000-yard season for him, but more so the way he's played these last few weeks, dealing with the shoulder, taking big hits, and still producing. What have you seen from him?
He is just a tough, talented, dynamic football player. You can't find enough ways to get him the ball, and the beauty of CD is you can line him up in the backfield 10 times and hand it to him because he's a natural runner, with the football too. I go back to his rookie years; he was our punt returner. So, plays every position in the receiver realm, and we just got to continue to find ways to get him the ball.
There you go. There's your Cowboys head coach, Mike McCarthy, after a 30-14 win in Carolina. Absolutely agreed when it comes to Osa. Certainly did a great job of getting CeeDee Lamb the football in the first half. Second half, maybe not as much needed from CeeDee, but only a catch. That continues kind of a trend for the season where not as involved in the second half of games, but 9 for 116 and a touchdown today for CeeDee Lamb, who continues to be really good. Micah, 8 pressures, 2 sacks, 32 total pressures against the Panthers. In the second half specifically, Micah had 6 pressures and those 2 sacks according to Next Gen Stats. He had a 25% pressure rate. He was brilliant. So you talk about the turnovers and the takeaways, but he's right. I mean, the one issue, 14 penalties today for the Cowboys. That's, if you're not getting the turnovers and you're not winning the turnover battle, that's something against a good football team, and we've seen it come back to bite them in some of those games. Yeah, it has been a little bit of a problem there, but, man, I just like what I hear from Mike about with CeeDee and stuff like that. And he's absolutely right. And, you talk about, I always get on Mike about the play calling stuff. And, he says, you can't, there's not enough ways. Yeah, there are ways. There's ways for there's a way. They did a good job today getting Turpin the ball, lining up in the backfield. They did. There's ways to do this, and there's ways to be creative. And it doesn't have to be just against Carolina, who is not very good on defense right now. There's ways to get these guys the football and make other teams have to deal with that on a weekly basis. And there's been times where, you feel like, gosh, okay, that was a very creative play. And then, but they need to kind of figure out something too. And I know the game was in hand in the second half. It was feeling that way. It didn't feel like it was ever getting away from them. But, you got to find a way to get the ball to CeeDee, and the first half. And we've seen this, though, a couple of different times where they haven't got it to him nearly enough in the second half of games that, maybe something happens. But they you and I were talking about at half, they didn't have a real good answer for CeeDee Lamb. No. They could have loaded him up like they did, like how Jamar Chase got loaded up on Monday night against the Cowboys if they wanted to in this one. And that could have been a big number game for CeeDee. We had Bobby Bell actually put this out on the Jalen Tolbert touchdown. Cowboys personnel, and this was really for most of the game. You had an undrafted free agent in Cooper Rush, undrafted free agent in Rico Dowdle, Hunter Lipke on the field, undrafted free agent. Of course, Guyton and Smith, first rounders. But then Brock Hoffman, undrafted free agent, TJ Bass, Terrence Steele, Brevin Spanford, all undrafted free agents, and then a second rounder in Schoonmaker, third rounder in Tolbert. So, you mentioned a lot of those young guys that Mike McCarthy and this team are playing with. And absolutely, that's a job well done today. Do have to give credit where credit is due. No, absolutely, and this is why. And I was not trying to draw Brad off sides, but let's be honest. These guys that are playing right now are all young players. Yeah, and young players are not going to quit because their life expectancy in the National Football League is not very long. The established guys, these teams that have a lot of veteran players. We've seen, like, let's take an example last year, Philadelphia Eagles. They got down to the end. They went to that playoff game in Tampa. They quit. They didn't play. They did. If you're a veteran team and things aren't going well, but my point is the Cowboys are if you're evaluating this team, because you're saying they haven't quit on Mike McCarthy, well, they're young players that have not established themselves as players. So they have to play hard. And you know what? The coaching staff right now is benefiting from guys that have had to play since week 3. The cornerbacks, it's been a mess. Has been. It's been a mess. The offensive line right now, it's a mess. But these guys, they're Rico Dowdle, they made a decision to now make him the featured back. That's gotten better. You're playing Brock Hoffmans and guys like that, and you're getting better. Luke Schoonmaker getting better. So to me, please don't use the they're playing hard and they haven't quit.
No, they have to play hard. They have to play hard. And these coaches are doing a better job of getting them ready to go. Is this Dan Skipper about to score a touchdown for the
Detroit Lions? Yep, that's exactly what just happened. Little play action. Skipper was an eligible receiver, and they hit him for a touchdown. As we got some really good afternoon games going on right now with Filthy and Pittsburgh. It's now 21-13 after the Lions just scored a touchdown. Buffalo leading in Detroit. Tampa Bay and the Chargers are playing. We'll go through the NFL scores a little bit later on and update you on that as we got a good afternoon of football going on right now. 877-881-1053, the number to call, the number to text. We'll go back out to the phones, brought to you by WinStar as the casino of the Dallas Cowboys. WinStar delivers thrills worthy of America's team with over 10,000 of your favorite electronic games, a 2-story WinStar Spa and Cascades, our luxury pool complex. WinStar really is a world of wow. Please game responsibly. So we'll get your calls and texts coming up on the other side. But certainly, I think that is a very fair point when it comes to you got a lot of youth. They're trying to put out some good tape, regardless on where their future is here in Dallas or elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
But, hey, I mean, this has been something under Mike McCarthy. They even did this in Green Bay, where you're playing a lot of young guys. He's not unaccustomed to this.
No, he had to play a lot of young guys because his team was completely decimated with injury. They just didn't lose games early in the year. They didn't have a Monday night loss to Cincinnati, and they didn't get beat by a bad now Atlanta team, I think, and a bad New Orleans team. And they've lost some games that they probably, if they played them tomorrow, would probably find a way to get a victory the way that their defense is playing. So yeah, you play the schedule you have, but here you go, man. I mean, it's tough. This part of it's tough. Yeah, Philadelphia, by the way, just scored a touchdown. They're up 17-3 on Pittsburgh.
Man, that's 59 years Pittsburgh has not won in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
That was a crazy stat that I saw this week leading into that game. So the Eagles looking really good.
This is important. How many games back is Philly then on to
just a game
to
Detroit?
To Detroit, yeah,
just a game. That thing's going to be a tight race there for home field advantage in the NFC. Scoreboard coming up for you a little bit later. Back to your calls and texts. We'll also hear from CeeDee Lamb and Cooper Rush. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Window Nation, the star of window replacement and proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
First and 10 at the 19. Young rolling to his left. Chased by Parsons. He overran him. And Young puts his foot in the ground. Goes into the ground at the 15. The ball is fumbled. And the Cowboys have it back at around their own 13-yard line.
One of 4 turnovers today forced by that Cowboys defense. Couple of fumbles there, 2 interceptions as well from Bryce Young on their way to a 30-14 win over the Carolina Panthers there at Bank of America Stadium. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus. Cooper Rush, your victorious quarterback today, 18 of 19, 214 yards, 3 touchdowns. And here's what Cooper Rush had to say at the podium postgame.
David Moore, Dallas Morning News. You just start by talking about the fumble, what happened on that play, and then just the way you and the offense seemed to respond after that early in the third quarter. If one led to the other in any way, or just kind of break it all down.
Yeah, that was a frustrating one. Obviously, I think in the first half we were moving the ball, doing whatever we wanted to do. So to end the first half that way was trying not to let that one ruin my day. that one's on me, and I don't know what's happening. I got to figure that one out with the zone read stuff. And but like you said, happy how we battled back in the third quarter. Another big third quarter for us. Past 2 weeks, we've been able to come out in the third quarter and get some stuff done.
Everyone always talks about your poise. Was it hard for you to stay poised in that minute? Were you a little harder on yourself than you normally are for that fumble in that situation? Because like you said, the first half was things going.
Yeah, that one was frustrating. Definitely, then you go into halftime, you have more time to think about it. And but once you're out there, it's back to executing. You know, you're in and out of the huddle. You got all the communication things. You're not really thinking about it.
The Garrett Score Star Telegram, for your first 3 touchdown game, is that something you've noticed coming off the field?
Yeah, I was happy about that one. Like I said, I had that fumble stuck in my mind still, so I was happy to at least have something I can hold on to with that one.
You've seen Rico from start to finish, and now him being able to really put it together these last few games. What do you attribute that to from someone who's been close to him?
Yeah, you know, he's in a real rhythm. I think he's really in a rhythm with the guys up front, reading blocks, cutting here, cutting there. And our communication and coordination up front has been tremendous last few weeks. Brock Hoffman's really in there leading the charge, talking, guys on the same page. We're coordinated. And when you're coordinated, you have a chance. It gives guys a chance. Rico can break tackles. There's not free runners, things like that. So the whole group, along with the tight ends, are talking a lot better, and I think that's contributing to the run game.
Nick Eatman, DallasCowboys.com. Brock was talking about it. He said you've talked to him about it. There are 7 or 8 guys at once, maybe undrafted players on the field at once on offense. Can you talk about the mindset there of just kind of playing with the chip on your shoulder and what that means to see these guys succeed?
Yeah, that was like we talked about that one day. It was one of my probably favorite memories of playing football at the NFL. Was cool. I think Washington, we had 7 guys out there undrafted at one point or many times throughout there. And we've been rolling with them again. And it just shows, you know, the NFL, they'll find you. If you can play, you'll play. You know, a lot of the league's built on late round undrafted guys. And it's really, you know, you come in undrafted, but people forget in the NFL, you're allowed to get better. I think a lot of guys get better. They spend time at their craft and, you know, start producing, and guys are playing together.
There's Cooper Rush after a 30-14 Cowboys win on the road against Carolina. And certainly today with those 3 touchdowns against the Panthers, all of which came on passes that traveled over 10 air yards.
Yeah,
so,
how about that?
Yeah, we were critical of Cooper Rush not really pushing the ball down the field. Over Rush's last 2 games, according to Next Gen Stats, 7 of 10 for 119 yards, 5 touchdowns on passes over 10 air yards.
I can't wait to look at the film tomorrow morning because I know going into this game that Carolina plays a lot of off coverage. And I wonder if their ability to push the ball down the field was free access and routes. You know,
I think that there's probably some truth to that.
When Dallas has to fight press coverage off the snap with these wide receivers, other than Lamb and maybe Turpin, that's why I think you got to kind of the bunch formations and move guys around and try and make things happen. I think that's what needs to be thought about when these receivers. But if Carolina's going to play 7 yards off you every time, then yeah, you should push the ball down the field. You should try and make more plays down the field. It's the teams that have played this man coverage on Dallas and jammed them at the line and made them make them have to fight for space. That's been a problem.
Yeah,
and that's probably why Cooper Rush isn't really interested in throwing the ball down the field, because those guys aren't open.
And disrupts the timing.
Dak Prescott dealt with the same thing.
Sure did.
Tight window throws the whole damn day. That's a problem.
All right, let's get back to the phones. 877-881-1053 on the official postgame show of your Dallas Cowboys. Zach Wolchuk hanging out with the Super Bowl winning scout, Bryan Broaddus. Let's go out to Fort Worth. We got Tate, who's been waiting a while. Tate, how you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Sucks that I couldn't see you yesterday, but I'm glad you got to finally meet my dad and everything.
Your dad was awesome, man. It was great to catch up with him.
The only question I really got for y'all is, do y'all really think that Trey Lance still should have gotten some playing time, even though the season being kind of like out of the water, and even though Jerry has a say that Cooper Rush should have a better chance to win? And if they win this next game against Tampa, Cooper Rush is going to play the whole season, even though I want to see Trey Lance. But either way, a win's a win. I'll be happy to see what happens the rest of the season. So love y'all.
I have a theory on this Trey Lance stuff. I don't think they're playing him because they don't want him to show that he can maybe play. And if there's questions about Trey Lance and his ability to, the tape they'll watch is the tape that he had in the preseason. And if you don't think he can play watching preseason tape, then maybe you're not going to go. I think they're not playing him in order to maybe have a chance to sign him as a backup. I think they're going to let Cooper Rush go. And I think Trey Lance potentially could be your backup. And I don't think they want to fight another NFL team for his rights. I think if, maybe it's a situation where they look at Trey and they go, listen, hey, we didn't have an opportunity. We're going to make you the second quarterback this year. Dak is, he's our guy right now, but we've had some injuries. You could be in there. If you play him and he has any type of success, well, then maybe somebody comes after him. And maybe it's something that you can't afford. I think they're protecting themselves to try and keep Trey Lance at a low number in order for him to come back as the backup. And that's how they're doing it.
Could it help even if he did play well, like maybe the comp pick stuff out of that?
Oh, sure. I mean, but you're going to, the comp pick really isn't that how the money that he gets.
Yeah, like that's it. If he plays well and he does end up getting a nice contract, then at least you get a comp pick out of the deal.
You gave up the 4, and I know that Brad came on and was talking during the pregame about this, and Brad's not wrong. Him and Eric had this discussion. You made the trade for Trey Lance when you didn't know that you had Dak Prescott. I really believed in my hearts of hearts that they were going to let this ride with Dak Prescott.
It seemed like that was where it was going.
I did not think that they were going to sign Dak Prescott to a $60 million contract.
Yeah.
And so when you make the trade for Trey Lance, now you're in the situation of, okay, well, we use Trey Lance as our quarterback, and it's only going to cost us $20 million a year, $25 million a year, not $60 million. So that's I just believe they're not playing him. I just believe they're not playing him because they do not want his price to go up, and I don't think they care about the comp pick. I really don't think they care about the comp pick.
Man, well, I mean,
I think they're trying to bring him back as a. I think they're trying to bring him back as a backup.
Awesome. I mean, I certainly, you spend a 4th-round pick on a guy, I'd like to see what you have there. But, I mean, they get to see him every day in practice,
But he's a free agent.
Yeah, which is exactly why the whole thing with the Dak and trading him, they were both going to be free agents at the same time.
Yeah.
The entire thing didn't make a ton of sense.
Yeah, that's the discussion that Eric had.
Yeah.
Where, Eric said, listen, it looks bad, but if your intent was to play Trey Lance and figure him out in the preseason and then see where Dak was, like, okay, we'll let this thing. If Trey Lance would have balled in the preseason, maybe you don't bring Dak back for $60 million a year. Maybe you just say, you know what, we're going to let Dak go and we're going to play with Coop. We're going to play with Trey Lance, but he didn't ball. So I think Dallas is playing this in a way they're thinking they're like, okay, we gave up a 4th round pick, but we're paying him what the 49ers agreed to as the second overall pick.
A good chunk of money.
You're paying him they probably think that they can get him for far less as a backup after this season.
Yeah, and they might. But I guess if you play him, maybe he stinks, and you still
this season you can lose games. We proved that on Monday night. You can lose games playing with Cooper Rush.
Yeah. I mean, I think they could lose with both of them. I mean, I don't know how good Trey even really would be, but yeah, I mean,
see, that's the whole idea.
I would be playing him.
That's the whole idea. That's the whole plan is.
I don't think you gain much by not playing him.
Don't show. What if he does play well? What if all of a sudden they kind of figure out a little bit of an offense where you got Rico Dowdle now running the football, you got an offensive line that's kind of protecting well for you, and then all of a sudden you turn this into a little bit of a read option, some movement stuff of him in the pocket. Move him around a little bit, throw the football on the run. Somebody might say, listen, this guy's worth, let's be honest, you and I, we haven't, we've seen some of the college quarterbacks, but we haven't seen like the second and third
tier guys. No,
we haven't seen those second tier guys. We have not seen that yet.
No. I mean, if that were to happen, I'd say cool, because then maybe I can get a 5th round pick back for him. I mean, to me, it's just like the way this team is, if you're only going to draft and develop, those picks are all gold. And to have given up a 4th for a guy that maybe you have back next year, maybe you don't, and now you don't even want to play him, doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But if they lost today, I do think maybe they would have played him. Now, this is Cooper Rush. This is the Cooper Rush. Did we get a missed field goal here in this game?
Buffalo looks like they missed basically a 20-something yard field goal here.
Ouch. Tyler Bass missing one there for the Bills.
Remember that one. Remember that one.
That
thing was like 27 yards, I think. I didn't get the number on it, but man, that was a chippy. He just pushed it right.
Man, touchdown game now. Buffalo leading 21-14 under 2 minutes to play in that one in the first half. All right, let's go to Oscar in Plano. Oscar, what's going on, man? Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, for sure, fellas. First and foremost, man, I want to thank you guys so much for an absolutely incredible day yesterday. You guys are awesome. Fellowship was awesome. So that was a great time. Great time out there. Brian, I did talk to you a little bit about the linebacker situation before this game, man. I was really worried about it. Leofau really stepped in big time.
Mm-hmm.
But where do you think the Cowboys just go for the linebacker, with Overshown being out next year? But, the emergence of Leofau, is that something that
you still got to you still got to go. Yeah, you're still going to go here. Yeah.
I figured.
And but you have to figure out, like I said, now Zach and I are having a discussion about Jalen Walker from Georgia, who's, I think, one of the best. I think he's, when you start to talk about players, Zach sees him as an edge. I see him as an off-ball Micah Parsons type of a player. I'm interested to see what my Gang of 7 guys say, around the league about this. But if he turns into just an edge, well, then you're going to have to look for other linebackers. Campbell from Alabama is another one. But this team is going to be hunting linebackers.
Yeah.
They're not going to. You're not going to go into this season just thinking, oh wow, well we got Leofau and I didn't see Damone Clark on the field today. Did I?
Special teams.
Did I miss something
I saw
there?
him on a couple. He was on that coverage unit for kicks.
This team is looking for linebackers. There's no question.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll pick one at 13 or 14, but the second, third round, this thing is absolutely open for a linebacker.
Good stuff, man. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you,
Oscar. Yeah, absolutely. I think linebackers got to be in play, especially with Eric Kendricks, free agent. Probably not bringing him back. Yeah. Maybe it depends on what happens with Zim. Maybe if you retain the coaching staff. But linebackers, without question, a position of need. All right, more of your calls and texts. We'll also hear from CeeDee Lamb. We got Rico Dowdle. We got our drive of the game. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Cowboys football and Miller Lite.
Fly away. Jackpot.com. The Powerball jackpot continues to grow. Buy your Powerball tickets now on Jackpot.com. And by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys.
Snap is back on third down. Time. Throws it right corner of the end zone. Lamb, back shoulder. Touchdown, Cowboys. Oh, did C.D. Lamb run a nice route? That's the C.D. Lamb possession.
It sure was. C.D. Lamb on that drive for our drive of the game, brought to you by Blockchain. Trust the team at Blockchain.com to make buying, selling, and trading crypto easy. Play smarter, not harder with Blockchain.com. 3 catches on third downs, including that touchdown there for C.D. Lamb, as he was money on that drive. 10 plays, 77 yards, 5 minutes and 45 seconds. Cowboys' first touchdown off the board. Today, you look at CD, according to Next Gen, those 9 catches for 116 in the TD. 105 of those yards came in the first half against single high coverage specifically.
Yep, there you go.
CD targeted 11 times on 15 routes, had 7 catches, 93 yards,
there you go.
And that touchdown.
Yeah, the teams that play that single high stuff, they can't bracket him, is what they do. And so, you know, and like I said, I'm really looking forward to seeing how much off coverage that Horn and those guys played against him. Where, because the Carolina Panthers, they just do not believe in playing much press, and they're going to give you free access and routes. And I think that's where CD was able to chew him up today.
Let's hear from CD Lamb, who caught up with the media postgame.
You always got to start somewhere, and last week was a great, not so much great, but it was a great stepping stool for us. And today, to come out here and overall just getting the end zone multiple times was a good feeling as well.
To not only get the win, but to contribute in the win in the fashion you did. First player in Cowboys franchise history to get 1,000-yard receiving in the first 4 of their first 5 years. What does that mean to you?
It means a lot. It means all the hard work is paying off. Not consistent with my work and the approach towards every year, and it's good to see that it shows up. And obviously I'm grateful for it, grateful for the opportunity, grateful for being in this organization and doing what I'm doing. Looking forward to many more of those.
How'd your shoulder feel?
Yeah.
Took a lot of hard hits today and cold. How tough was it just to get through all of it?
Yeah, I feel like it's a well-known thing that my shoulder's hurting, so I feel like these guys are definitely trying to put their best hit on me. So, I mean, you got to come a little harder than that. But
Xavier Woods, yeah.
Yeah, no, he's a. I mean, I played on this team for a couple of years, so I know what he's capable of. That was a good hit by him, but we're gonna need to bring a little more.
You go back to the touchdown drive, not just that catch, but the 2 good catches on that drive for you before that.
Yeah.
Can you speak about your mentality? Is it a mindset of put the team on my back? What are you thinking?
I always had that mentality, and obviously offensively, the guys are looking for me as a spark. So, with that, I'm going to continue to do that. And I look at myself as a spark as well. I feel like I can personally score from anywhere on the field, no matter how deep. So with that being said, I want to be a threat every time I touch it.
A few guys said Luke Schoonmaker had quite a speech as a team captain this week, talking about don't let us win this one. What stuck out from that speech? What did he say?
Those words alone. Obviously, momentum is a hell of a feeling, and I feel like it's definitely, what we can do so far is obviously control what we control, and the narrative is going to be what it is. But at the end of the season, we got to finish strong, and we got to start somewhere. So don't let us win today.
There's CeeDee Lamb after a big game for him, as we mentioned, 9 catches, 116 yards, and a touchdown as he's gotten through dealing with that AC joint sprain, just playing through the pain. In fact, today, when you look at Rico as a 100-yard rusher and CeeDee's 100 yards receiving, last time Cowboys had a 100-yard rusher and receiver was back in 2022 in Green Bay when Tony Pollard had 115 rushing yards and CeeDee had 150 receiving yards. So impressive day for both CeeDee Lamb and Rico Dowdle, but CeeDee continues to play through pain. He's fighting through injury and is it really is the only
thing
reliable weapon.
Yeah, and they've got other guys that are capable of one catch a game, and I got in a discussion with some folks on Twitter about Tolbert and that situation, and they're saying, oh, well, how about that one? And I'm like, okay, yeah, needs to be better than one catch a game. They need somebody out there that's going to find a way to make 4, 5, 6 catches in a game, and not, when they threw him the ball early in the game, what happened? Drop, ball hit his hands. Got to make contested plays. I'm not cherry picking stuff here. I'm just telling you that they do not have anybody else that's helping CeeDee Lamb, and literally he's having to shoulder the load with a bad shoulder because they don't have anybody else offense. What are they doing? They're throwing him damn screen passes and stuff like that because they have to get him the football because no one else is helping him.
Yeah, Brandon Cooks 5 targets, Jake Ferguson 4, Brooks with 1, which was the touchdown, Tolbert 2, Spanford 1. Really, you got 13 for CeeDee Lamb. It's not really close with anybody else. And that was a play where with Tolbert, you mentioned on the third down, hits him in the hands there, unable to make the catch. You got to make
that play, man. That ball is on your hands. You've got to make that play. In the last several weeks, he hasn't. And, he's capable. We saw, you just can't be the guy that makes one catch. Yeah, it was a TD. Yeah, we saw a big play against, the Steelers to win a game. Go back and look at what he's done since the Steelers game. It hasn't been very much. So, it's just, you want to sit there and talk about, this football team and where some of the issues are at. I think the wide receiver room is one of them, clearly.
Yeah, in fact, when you look at Tolbert, he had 247 receiving yards on the year after the Cowboys won Week 5 in Pittsburgh.
Right.
In the 9 games since, and most of that, according to Bobby Belt, without Brandon Cooks in the lineup, and he's right, Tolbert had 204 receiving yards.
Yeah, 9 games, right?
Yeah, 9 games. So, you were really hoping he'd take that next step after a big outing against Pittsburgh, and unfortunately, no, he has not done that. 877-881-1053, the number to call, the number to text. Zach Wolchuk alongside Bryan Broaddus. Get back to the phones here in a moment, but let's pause 10 seconds for station identification across the Dallas Cowboys radio network.
You're turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's team is 105.3 The Fan.
Hello, baby.
KRLD-FM and HD1, Dallas-Fort Worth.
An Odyssey sports station.
All right, let's go out to Laredo. We got Luis on the horn. Luis, how's it going, man?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Good win today. Really enjoy the show. Just going to give a couple of takes. I personally think Mike McCarthy is not the worst head coach. Now, I think he deserves a chance to come back with an extension, and this is why. First of all, look, he has his flaws, the clock management, the refusal to run the ball at times, and then obviously the playoff losses, especially that last one against Green Bay. But keep in mind, he works for the greatest owner and probably the worst general manager at the same time. Now, big picture, in 2021, Cooper Rush missed 1 game on that Sunday night, Minnesota. They got the victory. 2022, he was dealt 5 or 6 games without a starting quarterback in Dak Prescott. I believe that's when Cooper Rush went 5-1 or 4-1, something like that.
4-1.
Is he the greatest? Or something like that, yeah. Is he the greatest? No. But I think he's earned the right to overall, just the big picture. You're not always going to have 12-win seasons. To me, the best coach in the league is Kyle Shanahan. But you go ask those San Francisco 49er fans right now what they think of him. I bet you everybody wants him gone. Now, I just think sometimes we can't panic, see the big picture, see it through. That's just what I think. I know that a couple of weeks ago also, I was kind of shocked. I believe that's when you guys were, that idiot from San Antonio called in and was arguing with Broaddus about McCarthy. And I believe you said, Brian, that Mike has a say in personnel.
He does. He absolutely does. Absolutely. And he admitted it. He admitted he has more of a say in personnel. I'll let you finish it up here. But he admitted the other day he has more say in personnel here than he did in Green Bay. So he did admit that.
Okay, no, and that was exactly what I wanted to ask you, is just to elaborate, because I think we fans,
absolutely,
we think that Jerry is the end all be all.
No,
and I know that
you're not
the only one that said that.
No.
So if you could just elaborate on that.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the show, guys. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Luis.
They deal with a triangle over there. You've heard me talk about this. The tip of the triangle is the Jones family. One of the corners of the triangle, if there's a corner in a triangle, right?
Yeah.
The point of
Get the 3 points.
is the coaches. The opposite point is the scouts. And Will McClay is in the middle of this. And they pride themselves on conversation. And when they have a disagreement, they have a pod group, a coach with a scout, with another coach and a scout, and they have these discussions. There's not an organization that I think that they believe in coming to an agreement, a consensus. They agree. And Mike in Green Bay, he never. Ted Thompson picked the players, and Mike coached the team. That's what Mike did. Mike has a say. How many times have we've seen like clips from the war room, and Mike McCarthy, when it comes down to a pick, Will McClay arguing something, Mike McCarthy arguing something. Trust me, I went through coaches there. It just, I went through Chan Gailey and Dave Campo and Bill Parcells. I watched these head coaches have say in the personnel and which way the team was going, to the point where the head coach overrode the scouts on some of this stuff. So Mike McCarthy, don't sit there and I'm not yelling at the caller. I'm just saying, when you look at and you think, oh, he works for the worst owner or the worst general manager in the league, Mike McCarthy has a say in what they do. Jason Garrett stood up and said, Jerry, we're not taking Johnny Manziel. We're taking
Zach Martin.
Taking Zach Martin. When the scouts thought that they had, in Jameel Showers, when they thought they had their Dak Prescott, it was the coaching staff, Wade Wilson's like, no, Dak Prescott can do. No, it's not. It's not Jameel Showers. It's this guy. Jameel Showers can't play. That was a coaching decision right there. So listen, folks. Yeah, the buck stops with Jerry Jones, but when Jerry Jones listens to his head coach, I mean, I was surprised, and correct me if I'm wrong on this one, Zach. You and I are sitting there getting ready for a draft, and we start to hear about Laporta.
Yes, the tight end.
Like we start hearing about, like, they're getting ready to have the draft, and like, guys, they could pick this Laporta guy from Iowa. And we're all like going, in the first round?
Wait, what?
In the first round? Mike McCarthy and staff.
Yeah.
They really liked Laporta. And it came down to a decision that's coaches. So Mike McCarthy, he it's not Jerry Jones. Now, Jerry Jones might be telling him, hey, I would like for you to play Ezekiel Elliott. And Mike McCarthy's like, okay, I'm going to show you how bad of a player this guy is. But don't ever feel like the coaches don't have a voice in this.
Yeah, they absolutely do.
Dan Quinn had a voice in every. Dan Quinn went to Kentucky and worked out Boss Man Fat and all those guys. Dan Quinn went to. That's why Will McClay loved Dan Quinn, because Dan Quinn, he would scout with him shoulder to shoulder. These coaches have a big say in what happens in this organization.
Yeah, I mean, Rod Marinelli with Tristan Hill, we heard about that.
They signed off on Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah.
Because they were not sure where they were going to play Jalen Ramsey. They didn't know whether to play safety or corner. And they said, wow, we've drafted Ezekiel Elliott. I'll tell you what, we're going to run the football, and we're not going to have to be on the field very much. That's Rod Marinelli.
Now, when it comes to the free agent stuff, that type of personnel, I don't know how much the coaching staff's able to say, like, hey, I'd really love to have this.
But they don't play that game. But they don't play that game, But what did they do? What did they do?
But Eric Kendricks, that's a Mike Zimmer guy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they brought in a bunch of guys, Fowler, familiarity with Dan Quinn. So how
about Gilmore?
Do.
No, or how about the when you look at the two players they brought in Cooks and Gilmore, right? The receiver, Robert Prince, the receivers coach, had been with Cooks.
Yeah.
So they're not just going out there and saying, well, let's bring this guy in. These coaches are influencing them in and it happens in every sport. It happens in every sport. If a coach has been with a guy, the scouts are always going to have to take a back seat on that. Always.
Yeah, I mean, there was a reason we had the Bobby Wagner rumor every year.
Yeah.
And then the money wasn't right, so then he went and finally joined Dan Quinn in Washington. But no question, the coaches probably have maybe more say here than anywhere else.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to, of course, we've got our player of the game coming up. We got our defensive stand of the game. That opens up some lines, 877-881-1053. I know we got Paul waiting as well. We'll get to you and more. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Whata Wings from Whataburger are tossed in honey butter, honey barbecue, sweet and spicy, buffalo, and now for a limited...
Recognize and avoid the latest scams. That's aarp.org/teamuptexas.
Turpin in motion from right to left, snap to rush, looking left, looking, standing, now rolling outside the right, scramble drill, throws it in the end zone. The ball is caught by Jalen Brooks.
There you go. That's our What a Play of the game, brought to you by Reliant, an NRG company. Fantastic play there as Cooper Rush was extending the play, rolling out to his right. Finds Jalen Brooks for his first career touchdown. Played at South Carolina. Happens there in Charlotte. 17 yards. Cooper Rush to Jalen Brooks. Congratulations to him on his first NFL touchdown. Put the Cowboys up 24-7 in the third quarter. Cowboys go on to win it 30-14, as now they'll come back home. They'll take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Sunday Night Football a week from tonight. Cowboys 6-8 now on the year, 5-2 on the road away from AT&T Stadium. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus. But, Jalen, we talked about Jalen Tolbert. Jalen Brooks, a guy, that was just the only target he got for 17 yards. But maybe Jalen Brooks is a player we'd like to see more from down the stretch.
Well, I mean, what have they tried to do? Like every week that we get to the pregame show, it's Christy gives us the inactives, and it's Brooks is inactive or Flournoy is inactive. They really haven't found somebody that could step up, and they're really looking for one. They're looking for somebody. Folks, I'm not trying.
There's opportunity.
I am not trying to be a jerk to this wide receiver room, but I will say this: and maybe I'm a little bit butthurt too about this. That thought that this was going to be a little bit of this group was going to be better than it was, but they really haven't had anybody just. Like 1 week Brooks is active, next week Flournoy, and then they kind of get penalties or they make mistakes and then they're not playing the next week, and they just haven't had consistency at all from anybody other than Lamb. And Cooks was hurt for a lot of the year, unfortunately. But
then they traded for Jonathan Mingo. We've been asked a little bit about him. Did he play? Yeah, Jonathan Mingo was active today. No targets though for Jonathan Mingo against his former team.
I'm sure we'll watch the tape, and he had a good block or two in the running game.
He does block well.
If we put a 70 number on him, he'd have about 6 or 7 helmet stickers for pancakes and things like that for blocks that he was making at the point of attack.
All right, 877-881-1053, the number to call, the number to text. Paul's been waiting patiently in Wisconsin. What up, Paul?
Good afternoon, guys. Great show. A couple weeks ago, I called. It was the infamous week post-game show. Where
you're the Mike McCarthy fan.
Yeah. Well, you said, you're full of B. I think you've created a whole new slang, Brian. So congratulations. I thought it was pretty clever the way you got that across. But yeah, I was the Mike McCarthy fan, but understand that part of the reason why I am is because I honestly think he's the one coach with the temperament to put up with Jerry Jones and what Jerry does. And I've been very impressed. We fast forward. I think that was a Houston game now. And he's got them right now, he's got them with all the adversity. I mean, you're talking Pro Bowl caliber players. Yeah. He's got them, probably going to finish either 500 or close to it. And that might be his best coaching that he's ever done. So I stand behind that.
Sure.
And I'm glad that, of that. And I've got a couple observations and a comment. Number one, I think what you're seeing this year in particular is you're seeing kind of a paradigm shift in the leadership of the Cowboys. It's kind of gone away from that Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, rookie year, kind of with the Tony Romo influence and then the Marcus Lawrence now and I think Cowboy fans should be encouraged by this, to, Micah Parsons, because I think Micah is the one guy, unlike the Marcus Lawrence, who really just sets a tone of like, we are not going to fold. We are not going to lay down. And I'm encouraged by that. And I'm encouraged by the fact that they've fought through this and they've gotten some guys, particularly on the offensive line, who seem to, understand that, what their role is, and they're not looking to be superstars. They just want to contribute. So all of that. But one other thing that I wanted to two other comments. Number one, I want Brian.
I'll give you one.
Okay.
I'll give you one. We got to get some other callers. I'll give you one.
Yeah, I get it. So I wish somebody in the media would call out Dak Prescott for what he said in Atlanta when he said, "We bleep and bleep." You're the leader of this team. You got paid a lot of money to be the leader of this team, and he needs to be held accountable for that. So I hope somebody in the media down there does that. Thanks, guys. Love the show. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. Appreciate the call, Paul. I guess when it comes to like Dak, I personally agreed with him.
That we suck.
That the team's not very good.
Yeah.
So that's why I really didn't have an issue with what he said. Yeah. And the one thing about Dak is, and I guess, Paul, you're not living here in DFW, so maybe you don't hear it as regular. Maybe you're listening on the Odyssey app, and we appreciate you and love you for it. But there's not a player in DFW sports that gets more criticism than Dak Prescott.
National media too.
Yeah, nationally as well. I mean, Dak's got to sit up there and take the bullets after every single game. So I understand why. You're probably not alone. I'm sure there's other fans that feel that way. Like, you don't want your starting quarterback face the franchise saying something like that. I personally still don't think he's wrong. I guess, when we're now evaluating Mike McCarthy and the season as a whole, absolutely, the team hasn't quit on him. I think that the 4-0 on short weeks, I think Mike does a good job, and we've talked about this, getting the team ready to play. You go to the playoffs 3 straight years, you have 3 straight 12-win seasons. These are not things that were done between Jimmy and between Mike. But that like 20-year window, that type of consistent success wasn't there. The issues are when you lay an egg and get embarrassed at home against Green Bay. And then you still got to evaluate this year when you're losing by 20-plus points and you're setting records at home by trailing in the fourth quarter by 20-plus points, and you're getting blown out by the Saints, and you're getting blown out by the Ravens. Then you make a comeback, so you make the score look good in the fourth quarter in garbage time. The Lions just completely obliterate you, right? And this was the Eagles, yeah. And those were, Houston. You had your quarterback, right? You had Dak in those games, and the offense was terrible. Against the Saints, you had Micah, you had DeMarcus Lawrence, and the defense was terrible. I think we've seen with Zim, time has helped. Guys learning the system, maybe younger players getting more playing time, and then, the game slowing down. All of that has helped. But again, when you look at Mike, I think over his track record here in Dallas, one other thing you've got to evaluate is how has the team played against better or similar competition. And today they beat maybe the worst team in the league in Carolina, a team that's certainly comparable to the worst teams. The Giants they've beaten twice. Maybe they are the worst team in the league. And then the Commanders and Steelers wins are 2 good wins.
Very good wins.
Right? But still, it's tough when you're going up against teams that are just as good or better than you. The Ravens, the Niners,
Bengals,
the Lions, Cincinnati, Houston, Philadelphia, Atlanta. Those all come up losses. Is my coach a difference maker on game day?
Yeah.
I've got to figure out that answer, because you're right. You got to know that I'm getting somebody better in than Mike. Mike has done a lot of winning. Maybe some of this blame on him with the roster, and he did have say. You're right, Brian.
He does have say.
Some of that's tough when it comes to 1 year, but you can't forget. You can't forget the entire body of work here so far when we are evaluating what Mike McCarthy's doing as the head coach and if he needs to come back or not. And I think one thing, and I agree with you, but I don't know that Mike wants to come back if he's not the play caller. But I think you've got to give somebody else an opportunity to change up this offense.
I just watch from a weekly basis, and I have no problem with Mike McCarthy trying to get the team ready. There's some times on when he comes and talks at the podium, he says, we didn't have a very good week. We didn't do this. We didn't do that. That's his responsibility, and he talked about today, hey, we had a pretty good week, short week of practice, got it done. He understands how to get his team's health back to the best level that they can compete with. I think the word that you use that is so fitting is difference maker.
Yeah.
There are coaches in this league that are difference makers. I don't think he's one of them. And I think in a league where the top teams have difference-making coaches, that's where this team falls short. And that's why I think ultimately the decision that Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones is going to have to make.
877-881-1053, the number to call, the number to text. We'll get our defensive stop of the game. We'll also give you a scoreboard update across the National Football League. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed...
for months. UNT, a proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
With a receiver in motion, back to throw, looking left, late pressure.
Ball's out.
He is sacked at the 32-yard line.
And the Cowboys
got a fumble.
There is your defensive stop of the game. Big turn of events there. It was the opening possession of the second half. Carolina with the football, first play. Bryce Young with the fumble. Osa Odighizuwa forcing it. Chauncey Golston jumping on it. Cowboys 5 plays later end up in the end zone with a touchdown to Jalen Tolbert. The 11-yard strike from Cooper Rush to Jalen Tolbert made it 17-7. Big difference maker in the football game as the Cowboys go on to win 30-14, improving to 6-8 on the year. Carolina falls to 3-11. They're now 2-6 at home. 877-881-1053. Of course, the number to call, the number to text. We'll also have our Cowboys post-game show coming up on the flagship 105.3 The Fan. You can also listen on the Odyssey app with the three-time Hall of Famer Chris Arnold, and Jake Reba as well will be joining as well and hosting that baby. So a lot of Cowboys football continuing here with you, as this is the official post-game show of your Dallas Cowboys. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus. Quick update, scoreboard update around the National Football League. Earlier today, while the Cowboys were playing, you had the Chiefs get a win in Cleveland 21-7. Patrick Mahomes, though, has suffered an ankle injury. He is listed as week to week right now. But when it comes to the ankles and Patrick Mahomes, man,
Patrick Mahomes has an ankle injury, and it will regenerate by Wednesday and be just as good as new.
Carson Wentz is their backup, so maybe they give Patrick Mahomes a week, and especially if Buffalo ends up. If Buffalo wins this game,
Buffalo
they're 13-1
rolling right now.
Are the Chiefs? Buffalo would be just a game back, and Buffalo has the head-to-head tiebreaker over Kansas City with that win. So Chiefs have that big Christmas Day game looming against Pittsburgh. I'm sure the NFL wants to make sure that Patrick Mahomes is healthy and ready to play for that one, but we'll see. We'll have to monitor Mahomes this week. Cincinnati 37-27. They get the win on the road against the Titans. Titans benching Will Levis after he threw 3 interceptions. Joe Burrow, another 3-touchdown game. Chase Brown, pretty effective on the ground. 25 carries, 97 yards for Chase Brown, and a touchdown as the Bengals go to 6-8. They basically got to win out if they want any hope in making the playoffs. The Commanders get a 20-19 win as they hold off Spencer Rattler and the Saints. Saints score as time expires. They go for 2 to get the win. Commanders get the stop as they improve to 9-5. Big game from Terry McLaurin. 7 for 73 and 2 touchdowns there.
Yeah, that was, I'll tell you what, was it Darren Rizzi is our interim coach with the Saints, and I'll tell you what, I admire him. You're going into the game, you're 5-8 football team, and you've come in, you've breathed a little life into the organization. You've used about 12 quarterbacks. Why not? How about the Commanders, though? Might be a team of destiny here. This is like the second game with the Hail Mary game. They've won a couple of games when they maybe they shouldn't have been winning on the winning end.
It was an MVP-like performance for Lamar Jackson in New York as he has 5 touchdown passes, did Lamar Jackson, 35-14. Ravens go on the road, beat the Giants. Giants fall to 2-12.
0-8 at home.
Man, really, really bad. Tommy DeVito, Tommy Cutlets leaves with a concussion. Tim Boyle comes in for the Giants. Malik Neighbors still had 10 for 82 and a touchdown, and another sign flying over MetLife Stadium asking
the Maras
to just fire everybody there in New York. Jets rally. Great day for Davante Adams. How about this? 9 catches, 198 yards, 2 touchdowns for Davante Adams as they rally to get a road win over the Jags, 32-25. Jets now 4-10. Jags 3-11. And Houston holds off Miami 20-12. As that might have just put a fork in the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
As the Texans improved to 9-5, they're 5-2 at home.
Yeah, Tua had 3 interceptions today.
Rough game there.
That didn't help, and really the Dolphins' inability to run the football there as well. But Houston on their way. They're trying to find a way to win that AFC South at 9-5.
Then right now you have the Colts leading 13-7 on the road in Denver over the Broncos. Bo Nix right now just 75 passing yards about halfway through the third quarter. Does have one touchdown pass. They're not running the football really well. Jonathan Taylor is. He's got 96 yards already, so that'd be a big upset for the Colts.
Anthony Richardson is 5 of 17 for 56 yards and an interception in this one.
They're leading. That's amazing. Buffalo, maybe game of the day. Bills leading on the road against the Lions. This would be a statement win. They've already beaten the Chiefs. Can they go on the road and beat the number 1 seed right now in the NFC? And the Lions 28-14. James Cook 84 yards, a couple of touchdowns. Josh Allen 16-22, 282 yards for him. Lions right now are trying to claw back, get a stop defensively, but they've just had so many injuries on that defensive side of the ball. Maybe when you're going up against an elite quarterback in Josh Allen and a talented offense, it's kind of starting to show a little bit late in the season, and now you've got Aleem McNeil.
Yeah, he looks like
defensive tackles leading the game.
His knee looks like it's hurt. First half, though, of this football game, though, the Buffalo Bills with 3 sacks of golf. So, yeah, but you're right.
Not accustomed to that. That
not at
line.
all. But another defensive injury with the very talented defensive tackle. McNeil, you mentioned him. Boy, he gave the Cowboys fits when they met earlier in the season.
Eagles leading Pittsburgh at home 20-13. They've got the football. Jalen Hurts has had a nice game, 182 yards, couple of touchdowns, one of which did go to A.J. Brown, by the way. Steelers trying to claw their way back in it as well. Eagles with the football right now, 1st and 10 at their own 35. Cards up on the Patriots 16-3 as they try and keep pace with Seattle in the NFC West. Kyler Murray, 133 yards, but James Conner, just 8 carries. He's got 82 yards on the ground, averaging over 10 yards a run. And the Bucs leading on the road against the Chargers. That's, of course, the Cowboys' next opponent, 20-17. Tampa Bay leading on the road as the Bucs are trying to go ahead and win that NFC South division. How about Bucky Irving? 10 carries, 102 yards for him as they've got 5.5 left in the third. And Mike Evans keeps getting it done. 7 for 101 and a touchdown.
Yeah, the one thing that Irving has played very, very well this season, but the Chargers had been really bad against the run. When I was doing my study, there were teams that they had, Chuba Hubbard had some nice success against. Bears, Raiders, Chargers. They were a team that they were not very good defending the run.
Well, I'm sure Bucky Irving in that rushing attack for Tampa we'll be getting a full breakdown this week on them. I mean, we were fans of Bucky, probably nobody more so than our buddy Nick Harris when it came to Bucky Irving, but we all did like Bucky Irving coming out of the draft there at Oregon, certainly. Splash player. All right, got a couple more calls that we'll get to here as we got Bill calling in Dallas. Bill, what's up? You're on the official postgame show of the Dallas Cowboys.
Hi, guys. Thanks for the show. About the coach, 2 things. One, he's failed several times, and this goes back to last year, to put a reasonable product on the field. He gets blown out, embarrassing losses where they're not competitive, not even close to competitive, and there has to be some responsibility for that. And the second thing, taken into Broaddus' point that the coaches have some responsibility. Well, he signed off on Zeke as our answer, and he signed off on no draft pick, no free agency, no reasonable professional running back that you could really call a superlative running back on the field. That's a disaster. And so who's responsible? Jerry's not going to lose his team, so somebody has to be responsible for that.
Yeah, I think with Mike, I would be very interested to see, and people are like tweeting at me right now and asking me, all right, Mike has say in draft stuff. Does Mike have say in cap stuff? And that cap stuff means, free agency. And, Mike came from a system in Green Bay where they didn't really sign free agents either. I mean, it was very rare that Ted Thompson during his administration when Mike was there that they signed free agents. So, it is a thing where if Steven and Will had said, listen, we've got money, we can do this, let's do it. I think Mike would sign off on that. I do know for a fact, though, the draft stuff is, and I will say this also, I was a part of that team when Bill Parcells was there, and Bill, when we had free agent meetings, he's yelling at me because I don't want to spend this money. I don't want to spend this money. And then the next year, all of a sudden, what do? We spend money on Marco Rivera that can't play.
One of his guys.
Yeah, we spend money on Anthony Henry, who was okay. And then the defensive tackle that was from the Jets that we had.
Oh, Jason Ferguson.
He spent like $27 million on a players that, I know one of them, like I say, Marco Rivera, I tried to tell him.
Fullback Richie Anderson.
Yeah, but see, that's what I'm saying. These coaches have a say. But I would be very interested to hear the conversation about Ezekiel Elliott. I would be very interested in that.
Yeah, was that, hey, Mike knew Rico was the guy, wanted to play Rico?
Yeah.
And was kind of being pushed in the direction of playing Zeke, or did he actually really want to play Zeke? That's one that fascinates me. But the way the team goes about the roster construction, certainly the coaches get a say, but we've seen this now for a decade long where they're not going to play in free agency. They're about draft and develop, retain their own. That's why some of the moves that they've made, trading away the fourth rounders, we've talked about it on the postgame show all year long. Maybe you're not getting the return on investment on some of these guys that you've paid. Big piece out on the NFL, on NFL.com from Ian Rappaport today, talking about some of this stuff. And in regards to, even Micah Parsons being paid. And can they go ahead and continue to pay all of these players, that type of money? And I know Micah had comments about it. This was one of the things of the article from Ian Rappaport. Stephen Jones saying, obviously, we were totally
This
all
is
in.
from the owners' meeting, right? This is from this Wednesday. Yeah, the owners' meeting. Yeah.
Parsons, Micah, who's entering the last year of his rookie deal, he's set with the fifth-year option. It's worth more than $24 million. So Micah waited for Dak. He's waited for Lamb. So you had, Steven asked or Jerry asked if the thinking will be altered when it's Parsons' turn to negotiate a potential deal, given the stress big contracts can put on the organization. Jones said, yeah, that'll all be things we consider. Obviously, we're totally all in on Dak and CD, but after that, then you still shape things, including Micah, but Micah's a great player. You don't do well in this league letting guys like Micah usually leave the house. If Parsons was, in fact, available via trade, he would end up being the most high-profile defensive players to be on the block since probably Khalil Mack, right?
Khalil Mack, yeah.
So in regards to could he be traded, Jones said, we love Micah. I can't imagine there's a scenario where he's not wearing a star on his helmet. And that's kind of how I felt they would operate with that as well. I don't think Micah's going to go anywhere. But they do have to get creative in the way where, the guys that they're paying, who they're paying, can they pay everybody top of the market? And I don't know. I mean, clearly the way that they're kind of going about structuring the team over the last 3 decades, maybe they've changed things here and there. It hasn't worked to achieve the ultimate goal. And then there's the frustration among fans with flipping switches, and you can create some outlets will say damn near $100 million.
I've watched 2-3 videos this week on that.
And there's probably some truth to that. But then that, I'm sure, people would push back and argue like, well, that money's been earmarked, or, okay, that's fine. You could do that. But then 2026, 2027, you just keep adding void years to these contracts. You're going to be paying a bunch of dead money. And then when guys like Zeke and Michael Gallup and Zach Martin and name the player aren't on your roster, I'm still then paying for that player 4 years from now. So there's pros and cons to it all, but I do understand the feeling of once you've paid your quarterback and you say this is your franchise guy, once you pay your wide receiver, you shouldn't be conducting business like you're in a rebuild mode. And it's unfair to the scouting department to really just team build one way, and that's via the draft. It's also, I think, a little bit hypocritical and goes against that when you give up a fourth for a guy like Jonathan Mingo who hasn't panned out yet, when you give up a fourth for Trey Lance who you plan on never playing for your team. Maybe they do end up envision him being the backup, maybe. But some of the stuff, and I've talked about this, I don't know that there's necessarily always a plan. But, I mean, with the cap room stuff and Mike McCarthy, I would like to know that. I'd love to get some more information on that as well.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that Mike is told what's going on with the cap. But, he probably sits in some free agency meetings, and they kind of feel like that, like Steven and Will and Adam Pacific and those guys tell him, listen, we don't have money to go do this because we're trying to do this. And Mike's probably going, okay, fine. But Mike does have a big influence on what they do in that draft. He has a big influence in that.
All right, we'll put a bow on this one, turn things over to Jake and Chris. We'll also have our player of the game. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
I'm Darren Woodson, former Dallas Cowboy player and Super Bowl champion.
proud to be the official airline of your Dallas Cowboys. And by Ford, your Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas.
Back to throw, looking left, looking middle, looking to the ground, looking to be sacked, looking to stay alive. Odigizua got another one. Osa's gone off.
Osa Odigizua is our player of the game, brought to you by Jack Black. Want to use what the pros use? Jack Black is the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit getjackblack.com today. He has been unbelievable, as our buddy Brandon Laurie put out that he has generated 27 pressures across 199 pass rushes over the past 6 weeks. That was before the game today. Yeah. That was the most pressures among defensive tackles over that span. Then today, he comes out, has 4 tackles, gets the sack, gets the forced fumble. Osa's been playing like a man possessed here as of late.
You know what, though, Zach, and I'll give him a lot of credit for this because there's been games during his career where, like week 13, he
wears down.
He's completely disappeared, and he's played at a very, very high level. Yes, it's a contract year. I will give Mike Zimmer credit because they hunt matchups. They hunt matchups with him. They hunt matchups with Micah Parsons. They hunt matchups. They were hunt matchups with Overshown. And they have played against some offensive lines where the guard play and the inside play, the center play has not been good. And that's good. That's good that you take advantage of teams, put your best players on players that aren't very good. And I mean this in no disrespect to Osa, but it is a situation where they've matched him up against guys that just they can't handle him, and I think that's a really, really good thing.
And Mozzie playing better football as well, to your point. All of that will certainly help out Osa. Rico Dowdle, another fantastic game today as well as he goes over 100 yards. Saw this on the Fox broadcast. First undrafted player with 3 straight 100-plus yard games since 2014, which was Arian Foster. And the Houston Texans. So Rico was brilliant. Afterwards, he caught up with the media, as well as our own Cowboys insider, Bobby Belt.
Hi, Rico. 3rd game in a row. You've gotten a career high. What's working so well for you?
Those guys up front. That's just working well. I mean, it all starts with them. And Coach said that before the game. It starts up front and in the trenches, and it's going to end up front and in the trenches. It played out that way. So those guys have been opening it up, doing a hell of a job. And like I said, 3 in a row. And keep building.
Early in the season, when that production wasn't coming, did you eventually see it coming to by the end of the year having a production like this?
Yeah, I mean, early on in the year, we faced a gauntlet of defenses, and we early on in the season still had some wrinkles and stuff to figure out in our scheme and what we was doing. And like I said, it was all about the rhythm, and I've been firm on that since the beginning about the rhythm, getting the attempts, and I think we always could have did it, but timing right now, and it's working right now for us, so I'm not worried about early in the season.
Rico, individually, have you ever had more fun running the football than these last 3 games?
Probably not, honestly. I mean, maybe high school. Had some pretty good games in high school, like back to back. A lot of touchdowns. I mean, that's the only thing I'm missing right now. But this is definitely a great time right now. These past 3 weeks, those guys are opening it up, and it's been 3 good weeks in a row.
You spoke about earlier this week how much 1,000 would mean. You're 120 off now. How does it feel to be that close?
Closing in. Definitely feels good. Definitely want to hit that milestone in my first year being a starter, so definitely want to hit that milestone. Looking for it. Definitely get it.
You're running really physically. The offensive line looks like it's playing a really violent run style. Do you think that's just been the success for you? Do you think that's just been the success for you guys is leaning into that identity? It's just a physical run game.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, those guys are playing violent up front, and they're moving people off the ball. And when they doing that, it make it easy for me, and they making my job real easy right now. Just seeing the cuts and hitting it, and we falling forward, and it's working out for us.
There's Rico Dowdle after a career day. Career high 25 carries today against Carolina. According to Next Gen, he ran inside the tackles 15 of those, and he had 91 yards rushing. So he is leading the NFL in rushing yards over expected and explosive runs between the tackles. Again today, he had over 31 rushing yards over expected, which is basically, hey, what is the offensive line blocking up? You got to get that. And then now you are overperforming it. Certainly the offensive line played a hell of a game, especially with backups out there today against that Carolina front. They'll get a better test against Tampa Bay, who's also struggled a little bit defending the run. But you get Vita Vea. But today that Tampa Bay rushing attack's been their run defense has been good, bottling up the Chargers, who have just 32 yards rushing through 3 quarters. And that's a Chargers team that really wants to run the football on.
Yeah, it looked like that Mike Evans just caught a touchdown pass. So I think they're up 2 scores in that game. So it'll be a big challenge the next 3 weeks because you've got teams that are playing for stuff. I mean, Tampa Bay is clearly playing for the chance to win the NFC South. Philadelphia, depending on what happens with Detroit today, will be like in a tie, I believe. With maybe
they'd have
Detroit,
the same record,
same record as Detroit for the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
And then the final game, the Commanders, they had a nice win today. Survived that game against against the Saints, but now they're playing to make sure that they get into. So you've got 3 opponents that are all playing for something. There's nobody that's got the U-Hauls and got 1 foot in the parking lot and loaded up and ready to go.
No, you got playoff teams the rest of the way on your schedule, as you mentioned, with the Bucs trying to win that division, Washington trying to fight for wild card seeding, and then Philadelphia not only for seeding but home field advantage possibly. As Amon-Ra St. Brown looks like he's just taken one to the house. So it'll be 35-20 pending the extra point, maybe 35-21. Bills leading Detroit, and then you've got the Eagles who are pulling away from the Steelers right now. That one 27-13. You've got the lead there for Philly over Pittsburgh. So a lot still to come when it comes to the rest of this day in the National Football League. And we've got, I believe, one more call. Aaron and Alan. Aaron, you can go ahead and shut us down here as we'll take our last call of the day, Pepe. Our last call. Aaron and Alan, you're on the official postgame show of the Dallas Cowboys.
What's up, Zach? What's up, Brian?
Hey.
How you doing?
Excellent.
Yeah, I'll be quick. I know it's all good. Man, if we can end on a good note, I just need some optimism going forward with this team. We kind of been trending in the wrong direction for quite some time. You got a voice of optimism, man. I got my nieces and nephews. They want Christmas presents, and they want Pat Mahomes shirts, and they want C.J. Stroud jerseys. And it's not the way they were raised, man. Like, what can we do to pump some optimism to the Cowboys fans, Cowboys community going forward?
Aaron, I'm feeling the same way with my 9-month-old daughter, who I'm trying to raise in a household that my wife was a Texas Tech grad and loves Patrick Mahomes as well. And it's like, well, the Chiefs are looking for a three-peat. The Chiefs are good. I'm like, no. This is a Cowboys household, right? I was raised a Cowboy fan. My daughter will be as well. But it is hard to find that optimism. I guess you never know. Maybe you have another tremendous draft class. We've seen the difference a draft class can make to inject some life into the organization. And maybe Dak Prescott is able to come back and is, taking advantage of the time off and the offensive line, some of these young guys developing. I think all of those things are maybe where you can find some positive optimism.
I think this division overall, if you want to, is going to get better because I think the Giants are going to have either the first or second pick. And depending on which quarterback they go with, I like both Ward and from Miami and Shedeur Sanders from Colorado. And so all of a sudden now your division has, you look at
Jaden Daniels, you saw the impact he's had this year in Washington.
And then Shedeur Sanders. I mean, so this division is going to get tougher before it gets easier, in my opinion. And we'll see if the Giants change the coaches out. Usually a very patient organization when it comes to their coaches. But Cowboy optimism, you kind of hope that they go in and have a good draft. You kind of hope that they don't have every single injury known to man.
Yeah.
But you might before this thing even gets started in 2025, and I'm sorry you were looking for optimism. We'll see what happens with Diggs.
You might not have Diggs. And you might not have Overshown. You probably won't have Overshown.
Yeah.
You definitely want to start the season.
Right. So to me, that's any kind of optimism would be hard on defense, and you might have to might be a new coach here too. I don't know if that will create optimism, but here's the cycle of having to learn all over again. So we'll see. Hey, they put us back in the hunt.
Oh, in the hunt graphic.
We're in the hunt graphic now. Yeah.
New Orleans at 5-9's there as well, and the Cowboys, the Niners at 6-8, Arizona and Atlanta at 6-7. And there's the Rams at 8-6.
Yeah.
In the hunt, baby. I guess, they had a 1% chance, I believe, coming into the game.
There you go.
So you're telling me there's a chance.
Yeah.
I know you can still call in if you want. That'll be the last call we take here as we'll be signing off soon, but we will have the post-game show coming up on the flagship 105.3 The Fan and on the Odyssey app. If you're out of market, you want to hang out, listen to the three-time Hall of Famer Chris Arnold, and, of course, our guy Jake. They're going to do tremendous work here starting at 6 o'clock, just crushing it, taking your calls, breaking down this 30-14 Cowboys win over Carolina. Always got to give a big thanks to Peyton Russell for doing an excellent job. Kevin Walker pulling the highlights. Chris Strong kicking butt, taking names. Eric doing the pregame. Bobby out there. Christy Scales, Brad Sham, Babe Laufenberg, Tim Collins, Gavin Spittle. Everybody who's been a part of this one. Of course, you, Bryan Broaddus. Now we'll look ahead to Sunday night against Tampa. And You're right. All of a sudden, it's like, man, if they hadn't been able to hold on and get the win over Cincinnati, you'd be 7-7, and that in the hunt graphic would be really, really juicy.
Yeah, well, that's we'll see. Tampa's got they got to finish their game against the Chargers and then fly all the way across the country and then come back halfway. We'll see if maybe that. But Tampa's looking pretty good right now. Baker Mayfield playing very well. I'm looking forward to looking at the tape on that one.
Yeah, that one's going to be very interesting to preview heading up to next week. And then Mike Evans, of course, coming back home, Texas A&M, Texas kid. So that's going to be a tough matchup, and we'll see what they end up doing. The corner, that's been a position that they've been hurting all year long. It was Bland who is out. Now Diggs is out again in the 8-month timetable we got.
Well, yeah.
He's a crusher.
Yeah, you're in a situation, too. Hopefully you get Cooper Beebe back this week.
Hopefully Beebe's back.
Yeah, so then, your offensive line maybe we'll get a little benefit, but man, the whole thing with TJ Bass,
he goes down today
injury.
as well.
Yeah,
Adoga, Adoga got hurt but came back in.
Yeah, a little banged up group.
Banged up, they are, but they're gutting it out, and they'll be playing some better competition. So another good measuring stick. Sunday night, we'll have pregame starting at about 4 o'clock. Assuming that game doesn't get flexed, I don't believe that it will. But until then, I'm Zach Wolchuk. Hugs and hand pounds, everybody. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Hey, Cowboys fans, the Bahamas is calling. Start planning your ultimate getaway today at Bahamas.com.